My name is Sarah Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and 3 weeks ago at my own baby shower, my mother-in-law stood in front of 50 guests and handed me a sealed envelope, announcing with a smile that it contained 47 reasons why her son should divorce me. The room erupted in laughter. My husband was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. His entire family was laughing, clapping, thinking this was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen. I wasn't laughing. Not even close. I opened that envelope with shaking hands, scanned through the pages, and when I found reason number 23, I read it out loud in a voice so clear and steady that the entire room went silent in 3 seconds flat. Her face, her smug, satisfied face, went from triumphant to absolutely horrified so fast I actually saw the exact moment she realized what she'd done. By midnight that same night, every single person in that room, all 50 of them, had blocked her number, deleted her from their contacts, and cut her out of their lives. And what I'm about to tell you is exactly what was written in that envelope. Why it didn't just destroy her reputation, but exposed secrets she'd been hiding for decades. And how one single sentence changed everything for everyone in that family. But before I get to that moment, before I tell you what was written on that page that made her face drain of all color, you need to understand the full story of how we got here, because this wasn't just about one envelope. This was about 2.5 years of calculated psychological warfare, manipulation, gaslighting, and control. And I had absolutely no idea I was even fighting a battle until it was almost too late. Let me take you back to the beginning, to 5 weeks before the shower. I was 8 months pregnant, exhausted in a way I'd never experienced before, lying on our couch at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night with my feet elevated on 3 pillows, because they'd swollen to literally twice their normal size and my doctor had warned me about preeclampsia. My husband Mark was on the phone with his mother Linda, and even though he wasn't on speaker, I could hear every single word she was saying. Her voice has this quality: sharp, controlling, precise, the kind of voice that doesn't ask questions. It gives instructions disguised as friendly suggestions, and you don't realize you're being ordered around until it's already done. She was talking about the baby shower, my baby shower, the one I'd assumed I'd have some say in planning. I've already booked the venue, she was saying, her voice carrying that tone of pride mixed with authority. I've already ordered the cake from that bakery on 5th Street. Already sent out the invitations to everyone on the family list. It's all handled, Mark. You don't need to worry about a single thing. Mark didn't even glance at me, didn't even pause to ask if I wanted to be involved. He just said, "Sounds great, Mom. Thanks for taking care of everything, you're the best." Something twisted in my stomach, something that had been twisting for 2 years but I'd kept ignoring. I sat up, which took significant effort with my belly. "Can I talk to her?" I asked. Mark hesitated, and that hesitation, that split second where he considered saying no, that told me everything. But he handed me the phone anyway, like he was passing me something dangerous. "Linda, hi," I said, trying to keep my voice friendly and calm. "I really appreciate you organizing all of this, but I was hoping we could discuss some of the details together, maybe go over the guest list, talk about the theme." There was a pause on the other end, the kind of loaded silence that's designed to make you feel like you've just said something incredibly offensive and stupid. "Oh, Sarah, sweetheart," her voice shifted, went syrupy and condescending. "You're so stressed right now with the pregnancy. Your hormones must be all over the place. You don't need to worry about party planning on top of everything else. That's what mothers are for, to take care of these things." Except you're not my mother, I thought, but didn't say out loud. My mother died when I was 19, something Linda knew very well and brought up constantly, always in ways that made me feel like I was missing some crucial female knowledge that only mothers could pass down. "I have some ideas about the theme," I said, trying to stay calm. I was thinking something simple and sweet. Maybe woodland creatures with soft greens and browns, something nature-inspired. The silence stretched longer this time. Then Linda laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "Oh honey, I've already ordered everything in pink and gold. We're going with a princess theme. It's going to be absolutely stunning. You're going to love it. I've already paid the deposits, so it's all set. Plus," she continued before I could respond, "I've invited some very special guests. People who've known Mark his whole life. People who care about this family. My college roommate Claire is coming," I said. "She's the only person I invited." "Oh, how lovely," Linda said in a tone that made it clear she didn't think it was lovely at all. "And I've also invited someone I know you'll be thrilled to see, Jennifer." My blood turned to ice. Jennifer. Mark's ex-girlfriend from college. The one Linda still had framed photographs of displayed in her living room. The one she'd mentioned more than once in my presence. Would have made a perfect daughter-in-law because she came from such good breeding and understood family values. Why would you invite Mark's ex-girlfriend to my baby shower? I asked, and I could hear my voice rising despite my best efforts. Linda laughed again, that same dismissive sound. Oh, Sarah, you're being so insecure, it's not a good look. Jennifer is practically family, she's known Mark since they were teenagers. They grew up together. Our families have been close for generations. It would be rude not to include her in major life events. She's not family, I said, she's his ex-girlfriend, there's a difference. Well, she's my friend, Linda said, and her tone went from syrupy to ice cold in 1 second. This is my party that I'm planning and paying for you, and I'll invite whoever I choose. If you have a problem with that, perhaps you should think about whether you're ready to be part of this family. Then maybe I won't come, I said. The words came out before I could stop them, before I could think about consequences. Another pause, this one longer and heavier than all the others. That would be very hurtful. Sarah, Linda said slowly. After everything I've done for you, after all the time and money I'm spending to throw you this beautiful celebration, if you chose not to attend your own baby shower, well, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly why. I'll tell them the truth about how ungrateful you are. She hung up, just disconnected, left me sitting there with a dead phone in my hand. Mark was staring at me. What did you say to her? He asked, and his tone was accusatory. What did I say to her? I stared back at him, incredulous. Your mother just invited your ex-girlfriend to our baby shower, and essentially threatened me if I don't go along with it. He rubbed his face with both hands, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he wanted to avoid conflict. She's just trying to help, he said. By inviting Jennifer, I asked. Come on, Sarah, you're being paranoid. She probably didn't think it was a big deal. Jennifer's been at family events before. As my replacement, I said. Not as the guest of honor at my baby shower. Mark sighed, that long-suffering sigh that made me feel like I was the problem. Can you try to get along with my mother? For me. For the baby. She loves you, she's excited about being a grandmother, she's going overboard because she cares. I felt something crack inside me. Something small but significant. Your mother has undermined me, criticized me, and made me feel unwelcome in your family since the day we got engaged, and you have never, not one single time, taken my side. That's not fair, he said, looking wounded. Isn't it? I stood up, which took considerable effort with my belly. Name one time, Mark. Just one time you've backed me up when she's been out of line. He couldn't. He just stood there, looking cornered and guilty and fundamentally unwilling to do anything about it. That's what I thought, I said, and walked to our bedroom, closed the door, and cried for the first time in months. 2 days later, Mark's sister Emily called me. We'd always gotten along well. She was younger, quieter, less involved in family drama. Sarah, we need to talk, she said, and her voice had an urgency that immediately made my stomach clench. Can we meet in person? Not over the phone, this isn't something I can say in a text. We met at a coffee shop downtown the next morning. Emily was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, stirring her coffee without drinking it, her face pale and anxious. She worked at First National Bank, had been there for 6 years, handled transactions and account management. I'm breaking protocol by telling you this, she said as soon as I sat down. I could lose my job if anyone finds out, but you need to know, you deserve to know. My hands went cold. No, what? What's wrong? Last week, I was processing routine account reviews, she said, checking transactions for irregularities, and I came across your joint account, yours and Mark's. Okay, I said slowly. There was a withdrawal, she continued, a significant withdrawal that Mark didn't initiate. $11,000, Sarah. I felt like someone had punched all the air out of my lungs. What? That's not possible, Mark would have told me. We discuss anything over $100. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, Emily said, sliding a printed statement across the table. The withdrawal was authorized through emergency secondary access, someone who has permission to access the account in case of emergency. My mind was racing. Who has secondary access to our account? I already knew the answer before she said it. Could feel it settling in my stomach like a stone. Linda has emergency access, Emily said quietly, her eyes meeting mine. Mark added her years ago, before you two were married. He said it was just a safety measure in case something happened and she needed to access funds for him. That was 7 years ago, I said. She still has it, Emily confirmed. And last Wednesday she withdrew $11,000. Transferred it to her personal account, And Mark's name wasn't on the authorization, yours wasn't either. It was processed as an emergency withdrawal. I stared at the paper in front of me, at the black and white proof of what Linda had done. What did she use it for? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emily pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, showed me Linda's account. For the past week, she'd been posting photos of her newly redecorated dining room, showing off antique furniture, custom wallpaper, a crystal chandelier. The dates match, Emily said. The withdrawal was made on the same day she posted about starting her renovation project. Does Mark know? I asked. I don't think so, Emily said. I checked his account activity. He hasn't logged in for 3 weeks, he probably has no idea the money's gone. Why are you telling me this? I looked at her, this woman who was risking her job to give me this information. Because it's wrong, Emily said, and her voice cracked. Because my mother has done things like this before. Not this extreme, but she's manipulated money, lied about finances, and no one ever calls her on it because she's Linda Bennett and she's above reproach. Her jaw tightened. And because you're about to have a baby, and you deserve to know what you're dealing with. I folded the statement carefully. Put it in my purse. What are you going to do? Emily asked. I don't know yet, I said, but that was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to wait, I was going to be patient. I was going to see what else Linda had planned, what other traps she was setting. And I was going to make absolutely certain I had all the evidence, all the proof, before I made any move. Because I had a feeling this was bigger than $11,000. This was about control, about power, about Linda testing how far she could push before someone pushed back. That night, I waited until Mark got home from work. I had the bank statement on the kitchen table. We need to talk, I said. He dropped his bag by the door, immediately looked wary. Okay, what's wrong? Did you know your mother has emergency access to our savings account? He paused, thinking. Yeah, I added her years ago, before we got married, just in case something happened. Why? Check the balance, I said. Check it right now. He pulled out his phone, opened the banking app, and I watched his face change as he saw the numbers. What the hell? He said. There's $11,000 missing. How did this happen? I slid the statement across the table. Your mother withdrew it last Wednesday. His eyes scanned the paper, then looked at me. How do you know it was her? Because Emily told me, I said. She works at the bank. She saw the transaction. It came through Linda's emergency access. Mark immediately called his mother, put her on speakerphone. Linda's voice came through, bright and cheerful. Mark, sweetheart, what a nice surprise. Mom, he said. Did you take money from our savings account? There was a brief pause. Oh, that, yes, I was going to mention it. I borrowed it for your birthday present. I'm planning something really special, a surprise trip. You took $11,000 without asking either of us, I said, speaking up. Well, Sarah. Linda's voice turned condescending. I didn't want to ruin the surprise, and honestly, if you checked your account statements more regularly like a responsible adult, you would have noticed it sooner. So this is my fault, I asked. I didn't say that, Linda replied smoothly. But a good wife pays attention to household finances. My mother taught me that, of course you wouldn't know since you didn't have a mother to teach you these things. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark should have defended me right there, should have told his mother that was completely out of line. He didn't. Mom, he said weakly, you still should have asked us first. You need to pay it back. Of course, honey, I'll transfer it back next week, I promise, Linda said, and I could hear the smile in her voice, the confidence that she'd gotten away with it again. She hung up. Mark looked at me. See, she's going to pay it back. It's fine. It's not fine, I said. She stole from us, Mark, and then she blamed me for not noticing. She said she'd give it back, he argued. When? I asked. The shower is in 6 days. You think she's going to transfer $11,000 back before then? She didn't, of course. 6 days passed, the shower got closer, and the money stayed gone. But I had the statement folded in my purse. I had proof, documentation, evidence. And I had a growing suspicion that the envelope Linda was so excited to present the shower was going to give me even more ammunition than I could have imagined. The day before the shower, Linda called me directly, which almost never happened. Sarah, darling, her voice was honey poured over steel. I wanted to confirm a few last-minute details with you, make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, I said cautiously. The photographer I hired needs to know color schemes for the photos, she said. I've coordinated everything in pink and gold. So I'm going to need you to wear something that matches, either pink or gold, something that will photograph well with the decorations. I looked at the dress hanging in my closet. The one I'd already chosen, a deep emerald green maternity dress that was the only thing that fit comfortably and made me feel like myself. I already have a dress picked out, I said. What color is it? Linda asked. Green, I said, emerald green. The silence on the other end lasted at least 10 seconds. Green, she repeated. Green won't work at all, Sarah. Everyone else will be in pink and gold. You'll stick out like a sore thumb. You'll ruin all the photos. That's kind of the point, I said, keeping my voice calm. This is my baby shower. I'd like to wear something that makes me feel good. Technically, I'm hosting this shower, Linda said, her voice hardening. I've paid for everything. I've organized everything. The least you could do is show some respect and wear what I'm asking you to wear. I'm wearing the green dress, Linda, I said firmly. Then I hung up before she could respond. The morning of the shower, my friend Claire came over early to help me get ready. She'd been my college roommate, had known me for 10 years, and she took one look at my face and said, "You look like you're preparing to go into battle." Maybe I am, I said. I showed her everything. The bank statement, the messages from Linda, the list of things that had happened over the past 2 years, all the small cuts and dismissals and manipulations that had built up into this moment. Claire listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she pulled out her phone. Whatever happens today, she said, I'm recording everything, every word, every moment. Why, I asked. Because, she said, I have a very strong feeling your mother-in-law is about to make the biggest mistake of her life, and you're going to need evidence of what really happened, not just her version of events. We arrived at the venue at exactly 2 p.m. Linda had rented out a private event room at the most expensive restaurant in town, and she'd decorated it exactly the way she wanted with absolutely zero input from me. Pink and gold balloons covered every surface, pink tablecloths, gold centerpieces, a massive banner that said Welcome Baby Bennett in curling gold letters. 50 people were already there, milling around with champagne and elaborate finger foods, cousins and aunts and family friends, people I'd met once or twice, people I'd never seen before in my life. And standing near the gift table, wearing a pink dress that matched the decorations so perfectly it had to be coordinated, was Jennifer. Mark's ex-girlfriend, the one Linda still kept photographs of, the one who'd been suggested as a better match for Mark more times than I could count. She saw me walk in, saw my green dress that stood out against all the pink and gold, and she smiled, this slow, knowing smile that made my skin crawl. Linda swept toward us immediately, arms outstretched, wearing a cream-colored silk suit with pearls at her throat, looking every inch the perfect hostess. Our beautiful guest of honor, she announced loudly to the entire room. Everyone applauded, turned to look at me, at my green dress, and I saw Linda's eyes flash with anger even as she smiled. She pulled me into a hug, held me close and tight, and as she did, she whispered directly into my ear, just loud enough for only me to hear, I told you to wear pink or gold. But you just had to be difficult, didn't you? Well, you'll regret it. Before I could respond, she released me, turned to the crowd with that perfect smile plastered on her face. Let's get some photos before we start the festivities, she said brightly. The next 90 minutes were absolutely excruciating, a blur of forced smiles and uncomfortable small talk, and watching Jennifer position herself next to Mark every single chance she got, touching his arm, laughing too loudly at things that weren't funny, reminiscing about their college days. And Linda orchestrated all of it, kept finding reasons to put them together, kept saying things like, "Don't you two look wonderful together? Remember when you went to that dance? Oh, what a lovely couple you made." Mark looked uncomfortable, but he didn't stop it, didn't say anything, didn't tell his mother to knock it off or remind everyone that his wife, his pregnant wife, was standing right there watching all of this happen. Every few minutes I caught Linda watching me, and her expression was pleased, anticipatory, like she was waiting for something specific to happen. Then at exactly 3:15 p.m., she picked up a fork and tapped it against her champagne glass. The sharp ringing sound cut through all the conversation, and the room fell silent, everyone turning to look at her. "Everyone, please gather around in the center of the room," Linda announced, her voice projecting perfectly. "Before we continue with cake and games, I have a very special presentation for Sarah, something I've been working on for several months, something very meaningful and important." My heart started pounding, adrenaline flooding my system. This was it. This was the moment, the surprise she'd been planning, and every instinct I had was screaming that it was going to be bad. I felt Claire move closer to me, felt her phone come up slightly, angled to look casual but recording everything. I saw Emily across the room, pale and nervous. I saw Aunt Carol, Mark's father's sister, watching with sharp eyes. And I saw Mark standing next to his mother, smiling like this was all perfectly normal. Linda reached behind the gift table and pulled out a cream-colored envelope, expensive stationery, the kind you use for wedding invitations. She held it up like a trophy. I've put so much thought into this moment, she said, looking directly at me with those cold eyes. As a mother, my only concern, my only priority, is what's best for my son. I'm sure all the mothers here understand that. There were murmurs of agreement throughout the crowd, women nodding. Someone said how sweet. Linda extended the envelope toward me. This, she announced clearly, making sure everyone could hear, is a list that I've carefully compiled over the past 2 years. It contains 47 reasons why Mark should divorce you. For exactly 1 second, the room was completely silent, frozen. Then someone laughed, a nervous, uncertain sound. Then someone else laughed. Then suddenly the whole room was laughing, because they thought this had to be a joke, had to be some kind of quirky, inappropriate mother-in-law humor, a gag gift. Mark was laughing, actually had tears in his eyes from laughing so hard. Come on, babe, he said, nudging me with his elbow. Open it, this is hilarious. This is the most mom thing ever. Jennifer was laughing, covering her mouth with her hand, her eyes sparkling with amusement. People were pulling out their phones, wanting to capture this funny moment. Go ahead, Linda said, extending the envelope closer to me, her smile sharp as broken glass. Read it, share it with everyone. It's all in good fun unless, she paused deliberately, you're scared of what you might find. Another ripple of laughter went through the crowd. I looked at the envelope in her outstretched hand, heavy, substantial, carefully prepared. I looked at Claire, who gave me the tiniest nod. I looked at Emily, who had gone completely pale. I looked at Mark, who was still grinning, waiting for me to play along with what he thought was a harmless joke. Then I looked at Linda, really looked at her, and I saw it clearly for the first time. This wasn't about being funny. This wasn't a joke. This was meant to humiliate me, to break me down in front of everyone who mattered, to show me exactly how powerless I was. She'd planned this for months, typed it up, brought it to my own baby shower, and she was absolutely certain I would either refuse to open it and look weak or open it and be destroyed by what was inside. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that I had been waiting for this. I took the envelope from her hand. It was heavier than I expected, multiple pages. The room was still buzzing with amusement. People whispering, this is priceless. Patricia is such a character. I can't wait to hear what's on the list. I carefully opened the envelope, pulled out the contents. 4 pages, white printer paper, single-spaced, numbered 1 through 40, 7 in perfect sequence. The room was still treating this as entertainment. Someone whispered loudly, this is the best baby shower game I've ever seen. Another person said, oh my God, I need to do this at my daughter's wedding. I started reading silently, scanning through Linda's carefully compiled list of my failures. Number 1. She doesn't know how to cook a proper pot roast, the kind I taught Mark to appreciate. Number 3. She convinced Mark to move to a different neighborhood, 25 minutes farther from family instead of the house I found for them 3 blocks away. Number 7. She works too much, focuses on her career instead of homemaking. A wife's first priority should be her husband's comfort. Number 12. She refused to take the Bennett family name, kept her maiden name out of what she calls feminism, but is really just disrespect. Every single item was petty, mean-spirited, designed to paint me as inadequate, ungrateful, disrespectful. But I kept reading, kept scanning down the pages. Number 19. She refuses to give me a key to their house. Claims it's about boundaries, but really she's trying to keep me away from my own son. Number 21. She doesn't consult me on major decisions about the baby. Acts like my decades of parenting experience mean nothing. And then I reached number 23. I read it once, very carefully. Then I read it again, to make absolutely certain I was understanding it correctly. My hand started shaking, but not from fear or embarrassment. From pure, absolute vindication. Well, Linda's voice cut through my concentration, cutting and sharp. Find anything particularly interesting. The entire room was watching me now, 50 pairs of eyes, all waiting, anticipating, expecting me to be humiliated. I could feel the weight of their attention, could sense the cameras pointed at me, could hear people whispering. Wondering what I was going to do, I lifted my head slowly, met Linda's eyes directly across the circle of people. May I read one of these out loud? I asked, my voice calm and steady. Linda's smile widened, became triumphant, victorious. Of course, sweetheart, she said loudly, read whichever one you like, read several if you want. They're all completely true, I stand behind every single word. I took a deep breath, let it out slowly. Then I began to speak, projecting my voice clearly so everyone in the room could hear every word. Reason number 23, I read. The room leaned in, eager to hear the embarrassing thing about me. She doesn't even know that I accessed their joint bank account to withdraw $11,000 for Mark's birthday surprise, which proves she doesn't pay attention to their finances or household responsibilities like a proper wife should. The laughter died, just stopped completely like someone had flipped a switch. The silence that replaced it was so absolute I could hear the ventilation system humming. I continued in the same calm, measured voice. For the record, I was aware of the withdrawal. It was $11,000 taken without permission or notification, processed through emergency account access on the exact same day Linda posted photos of her new dining room renovation. I reached into my purse, pulled out the folded bank statement Emily had given me, held it up so everyone could see. I have the complete transaction documentation right here, including timestamps and authorization codes if anyone would like to review it. Linda's face changed, transformed in the span of 3 seconds from smug and satisfied to absolutely horrified, all the color draining out of her skin, leaving her a grayish white. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Mark stepped forward, his smile completely gone. Wait, he said, Mom, you actually took money from our account. It was a loan, Linda said, but her voice came out high and strained, completely different from her usual controlled tone. It was for your birthday. I was planning a surprise. I was going to pay it back. You didn't ask me, Mark said, and I could see reality crashing down on him. You didn't ask Sarah, you just took it. I didn't need to ask, Linda said desperately. I'm your mother. I have emergency access for situations like this. Situations like this. Emily's voice rang out from across the room. She walked forward, and I'd never seen her look so angry. She works at the bank, someone whispered. Emily reached the center of the circle. I work at First National Bank, she said clearly. I saw this transaction personally. It was processed through emergency access, which is meant for medical emergencies, deaths, urgent situations, not for personal home renovations. The whispers started then, growing louder. $11,000 she actually stole from her own son, and she wrote it down. She put it in a list. I stood perfectly still, holding the pages, holding the bank statement, and I didn't have to say another word. Linda had done all the work for me, had confessed to everything in writing, had handed me the evidence in front of 50 witnesses, while thinking she was humiliating me. But then something happened that I didn't expect. Something that changed everything even more. Aunt Carol, Mark's aunt who'd been sitting quietly on the side, stood up from her chair. Her voice, when she spoke, was shaking with decades of suppressed emotion. This isn't the first time, is it, Linda? The room went silent again, a different kind of silence, heavier and more dangerous. Carol walked toward the center of the circle, her eyes locked on Linda. 23 years ago, she said, you told my brother Richard, you told Mark's father, that I had stolen jewelry from the family collection, pieces that had been passed down for generations. Linda's face went even whiter. That was different, she started to say. How was it different? Carol cut her off, and her voice was rising. I didn't steal anything, Linda. I never took a single piece of jewelry. But you convinced Richard I had. You showed him fake evidence, you manipulated the situation, and he believed you because you're so good at lying. For 23 years, I've been treated like a criminal in this family. People stopped inviting me to gatherings, stopped speaking to me, and I lost my relationship with my brother, with Mark, with everyone because of your lies. The gasps around the room were audible. Someone said, oh my God. Someone else said, is this true? A cousin spoke up, David. Actually, Patricia's nephew. Wait, he said, is that why Dad stopped talking to Aunt Carol all those years? I always wondered, but no one would tell me. She made it up, Carol said. Tears streaming down her face now. All of it, she fabricated evidence because I had questioned something she did. I don't even remember what, and she decided to destroy my reputation as punishment. Linda's composure was completely crumbling. That was different, she repeated desperately. You don't understand. I was protecting the family. You lied about me, Carol said, her voice breaking. You destroyed my life over a grudge. And now you're stealing from your own son and writing it down like it's funny. Like it's proof of someone else's failure. Movement near the gift table caught my attention. Jennifer stepped forward, and for the first time since I'd arrived, she didn't look smug or amused. She looked uncomfortable, almost scared. Mrs. Bennet, she said quietly, but her voice carried in the silent room. You told me that Sarah specifically asked for me to be invited, that she wanted old friends from Mark's college days here to celebrate. The room collectively held its breath. That's not true, is it? Jennifer continued. You told me Sarah requested my presence, but she didn't, did she? You invited me without telling her, and you lied to me about why. Linda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was trying to, she started. You were trying to hurt me. I said, not angry, just stating a clear fact. You invited my husband's ex-girlfriend to my baby shower, lied to her about why she was invited, and positioned her next to Mark all afternoon to make me feel inadequate and replaceable. I held up the 4 pages, the list Linda had typed up so carefully. These are your words. Linda, not mine, all 47 reasons, all in your handwriting, all carefully thought out and prepared. The room was erupting now, people talking over each other, voices rising, shocked exclamations overlapping. How long has she been doing this? Did Mark know? Is any of this legal? Can you sue for this? Linda stood in the center of the chaos. And for the first time in the 2.5 years I'd known her, she had absolutely no control over the situation, no clever response, no way to manipulate the narrative. She looked around desperately, searching for allies, for anyone who would defend her. But everywhere she looked, she found only shocked faces, disgusted expressions. Family members she'd controlled for years suddenly seeing her clearly. Mark was staring at his mother like he'd never seen her before. You invited Jennifer here to make Sarah feel bad, he said slowly, like he was processing each word as he said it. You took money from our account without telling us. You lied to family members. He looked at Carol. You destroyed Aunt Carol's relationship with Dad over something she didn't even do. I was trying to protect you, Linda said, and her voice was desperate now, pleading. From what, Mom? Mark asked, and his voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. From the woman who's carrying your grandchild. She's not right for you, Linda burst out, her composure completely gone now. She's not from the right background. She doesn't have a mother to teach her how to be a proper wife. She keeps you away from family. She's changing you into someone I don't recognize. I've watched it happen for 2 years and I had to do something. You took our money, Mark said. And each word sounded like it was being pulled from somewhere deep. You created a list to humiliate my wife at her own baby shower in front of our entire family. You invited my ex-girlfriend here under false pretenses. You lied about Aunt Carol for over 20 years. His jaw was tight, hands clenched. That's not protecting me, Mom. That's controlling me and I'm done. Linda's eyes filled with tears, but they looked wrong, somehow calculated. You're choosing her over your own mother, she asked, her voice breaking. Ryan looked at me, at my belly where his child was growing, at the life we'd built together despite his mother's constant interference. Then he looked back at Linda. I'm not choosing between you, he said quietly. I'm choosing my family, my wife and my child, and if you can't respect that, if you can't respect her, then yes, I guess I am choosing. Linda grabbed her purse with shaking hands. Her carefully maintained composure was completely shattered, mascara running, face blotchy. You'll regret this, she said, looking around the room. All of you, you're going to take her side. After everything I've done for this family, after all the years I've spent, the money I've spent, the effort I've put in. Aunt Carol spoke again, her voice steady now. You did this to yourself, Linda, every bit of it. You wrote down your own confession and handed it to her in front of 50 people. Linda looked at me one more time, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Rage mixed with humiliation, mixed with disbelief that her plan had backfired so spectacularly. This isn't over, she said. I met her gaze without flinching, without backing down. Yes, I said calmly, it is. Linda walked to the door and the crowd parted to let her through, no one trying to stop her, no one rushing to comfort her. At the threshold, she turned back one final time, opened her mouth like she was going to say something else. Then at the threshold, she turned back one final time, opened her mouth like she was going to say something else, then seemed to realize there was nothing left that could possibly save her. Whatever words she'd relied on her entire life, guilt, obligation, manipulation, fear, they had all lost their power in that room. She closed her mouth, lifted her chin with a brittle attempt at dignity, and walked out. The door shut behind her with a soft click. It was such a small sound for something that felt so final. No one spoke for several seconds. 50 people stood frozen in place, staring at the closed door like it might swing open again and undo what had just happened. The air felt heavy, electric, charged with everything that had been exposed in the last few minutes. Then Mark moved. He didn't go after his mother. He didn't call her name. He walked toward me, slowly, like each step required intention, like he was crossing a bridge he could never walk back from. When he reached me, he looked down at the papers in my hands. The list. The bank statement. His mother's typed out so neatly, so confidently, never meant to be seen as evidence, only as a weapon. "I'm so sorry," he said. It was the first time in our entire marriage he had ever said those words to me without defensiveness, without excuses, without trying to soften or redirect the blame. I should have listened. I should have protected you. I should have protected us. My throat tightened. I'd imagined this moment 100 times in my head, him finally seeing, finally understanding, but now that it was here, it didn't feel triumphant. It felt sad. Sad that it had taken public humiliation and financial theft and decades of buried family trauma for the truth to finally surface. "I needed you to believe me," I said quietly. "Not today, not after everything exploded. I needed you to believe me when it was just the two of us." He nodded, eyes shining. "I know, and I failed you?" Around us, people were slowly beginning to move again, whispering in low voices, glancing at each other like they'd just woken up from a long shared illusion. Aunt Carol came over first. She stopped in front of me, her hands shaking slightly. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For saying it out loud," she replied. "For proving it wasn't all in my head. For giving me my life back." Her eyes filled with tears, and I realized something profound. What had just happened wasn't only about me. It wasn't even only about Mark. It was about an entire family that had lived under Linda's control for decades, quietly shrinking themselves to survive her. And that control had finally shattered. Emily came next. She looked relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for years. "I was so scared," she admitted. "I thought everyone would blame me for getting involved." "You did the right thing," I said. "No matter what happens, you did the right thing." She nodded, swallowing hard. Jennifer hovered awkwardly a few feet away, clearly unsure if she even had the right to speak. Eventually, she stepped forward. "I need to apologize," she said to me directly. "I never would have come if I had known the truth. I feel sick that I was used like that." "I know," I said. "And I believe you." She let out a shaky breath. "She made it sound like you were insecure, jealous, controlling. Like I was doing you a favor by showing up and proving you had nothing to worry about." I smiled sadly. "That sounds exactly like her." Jennifer nodded. "I won't be part of this anymore. I promise." And just like that, another thread of Linda's control snapped. The baby shower never officially resumed. There was no cake-cutting ceremony, no party games, no gift-opening spectacle. Instead, people gathered in small groups, talking quietly, processing what they'd witnessed. Some hugged Aunt Carol. Some asked Emily questions about how emergency access really worked. Some apologized to me for laughing earlier, for not recognizing cruelty disguised as humor. One woman, a distant cousin, wiped her eyes and said, "I always thought something felt off, but I told myself I was being dramatic." I looked around the room and realized how many people had thought the same thing. How many had ignored their instincts because it was easier than challenging Linda. Mark and I left early. We didn't announce it. We just slipped out quietly, hand in hand, before anyone could turn what had happened into another spectacle. The car ride home was silent, not uncomfortable silence, just heavy, reflective. At a red light, Mark finally spoke. "She doesn't have access anymore." I looked at him. "What?" "I removed her emergency access from our account while we were still at the venue, and I changed every password, banking email, phone provider, everything." Relief flooded me so suddenly I almost started crying. "Thank you," I whispered. "I should have done it years ago." When we got home, he made tea for both of us, and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd first seen the bank statement. "I'm calling a lawyer tomorrow," he said. "About the money, and about boundaries, and about what it means to legally protect you and the baby." I looked at him carefully. "You're not doing this because everyone was watching, right?" He met my eyes. "I'm doing it because I finally see who she is. And I finally see what she's done to you." That night, for the first time since we'd been married, I slept without feeling like I was fighting an invisible enemy in my own home. By morning, the fallout had already begun. My phone was full of messages. Some were supportive. "I'm so proud of you. You were so brave. She's been manipulating us for years. Thank you for ending it." Others were shaken. "I don't even know how to process this. Everything I believed about her feels fake now." There was only one message that mattered most. From Aunt Carol. "For the first time in 23 years I feel like I can breathe." Linda tried to contact Mark repeatedly that week. Calls, voicemails, emails, messages that shifted between apology, rage, guilt, and denial. "You embarrassed me. You destroyed this family. She manipulated all of you. I was only trying to help. You'll regret cutting me off." Mark didn't respond. Not once. Instead, he forwarded everything to our lawyer. Because one thing had become clear: Linda wasn't sorry. She was scared. And those were not the same thing. The money was returned 2 weeks later in full with no message attached. It wasn't an apology. It was damage control. But by then, it didn't matter. The power was gone. 3 months later, our daughter was born. We named her Grace. Not because we wanted to forgive Linda. Not because we were pretending nothing had happened. But because grace to us meant something different now. It meant choosing peace over chaos, truth over comfort, boundaries over guilt, protection over tradition. Linda was not notified when I went into labor. She was not invited to the hospital. She did not meet Grace. And for the first time, Mark didn't hesitate. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what happened. If I regret reading that sentence out loud, if I regret exposing her, if I regret the way the family was torn apart. And my answer is always the same. The family wasn't torn apart. It was finally put back together without lies holding it together. That envelope was meant to humiliate me. Instead, it became her confession. She wrote her own downfall. She handed me the proof. And she did it in front of 50 witnesses who would never see her the same way again. All because of one sentence. She doesn't even know I accessed their joint bank account to withdraw $11,000. That sentence didn't just change my life. It freed an entire family.